Are you
Uh,
talk about?
Man, the finale of Mad Men is over, but we're just getting started here on Mad Men Live here on Post Show Recaps. And now here are the two guys who are about to remind you that it's supper time on Post Show Recaps. Rob Cesternino and Jeremiah Panhorst. Jeremiah, how you doing? Sorry to cut you off there.
That's okay, man. I'm sorry. I didn't realize we were already gone live.
This was like the moon launch that we were going. We had blast off.
We were all systems go, and I wasn't even ready. Wasn't even in my seat.
Yeah. Well, we are ready here to talk about the Mad Men finale, Season 7, mid-season finale. We're halfway home on Season 7 of Mad Men, and we're here talking with one of our contributors here on Post-Show Recaps, but he is also the host of Mad Men Podcast, a true authority on Mad Men, Jeremiah Panhorst. Welcome back, buddy.
Well, it's good to be back, Rob. Good to be back, and we're talking about Mad Men once again. So that's always good.
Yeah, we're talking about Mad Men, and we're here live on the Tuesday after Memorial Day. So the finale was on Sunday night for us. A lot of people were out of town, so it was like a holiday weekend, sort of a weird spot to put the mid-season finale. But hey, there was no Game of Thrones, so I guess strike while the iron is hot for AMC.
I agree. I think that was probably a wise decision to not be able to compete up against something like Game of Thrones, which I'm sure has really hurt their ratings.
Matthew Weiner does not care about your holiday weekend.
That's right. He doesn't care whatsoever. He just wants you to sit back and pour yourself an old-fashioned and watch his show.
That's right. Okay, so we're live. We got the chat room going here on postshowrecaps.com. We've also got our Twitter open at the hashtag PSRecaps, and you can also post your questions for us here on our YouTube channel, postshowrecaps.com/YouTube, as we talk about the mid-season finale of Mad Men and sort of talk about that episode and also sort of look back at the 7 episodes that were given to us in Season 7 and then look ahead to the rest of Season 7. And Jeremiah, I know you cover this so closely. How big of a fan were you of the Season 7 half season?
I personally thought it was a really good, solid first half of Mad Men. Really touched a lot on the basis about Don Draper, and with all the stuff he's done over the for the previous 6 seasons, about just the way he's really kind of destroyed a lot of his relationships, destroyed his professional career, and be able to see him kind of dig himself from the bottom of his, probably the lowest he's been maybe ever, to work his way back up to being a major player in the advertising agency, and also try to work on some of those relationships he had, which we all know he hasn't done a very good job with personal relationships or work relationships. He's such a polarizing kind of character that I think that it was a tough road for him to climb, but it looks like he's on the right track to do that.
Yeah, he does appear to be back at a high point where we saw him definitely hit a few lows here during Season 7. But to me, that I know Alan Sepinwall touched on this a little bit in his reviews of the Mad Men finale, but doesn't this feel like a series finale? Like, I don't know what we have to do that's left in these final 7 episodes. I know we have to have Woodstock and the Mets have to win the World Series and things like this, but other than that, I don't know why we need 7 more episodes. And I'm not complaining about 7 more episodes of Mad Men, but what needs to still be resolved?
Well, I guess from what I gather, it sounds like he's going to really dive more further into Don's personal life as far as things in his life, his relationships he's had with people. I don't know if it's just mainly putting a focus on fixing his family situation with his kids. I mean, let's face it, Don hasn't been the best father in the world. And also, I guess maybe, I don't know if there's still a possibility we could see another love interest for Don Draper, which seems a little hard to believe with only 7 episodes to go. So it will be very interesting, Rob, to see what exactly Matthew does have in store for these final 7 parts, because I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. And as far as the way it ended, Matthew has talked many times before, including some of his interviews with Alan Sepinwall, that he likes to end every show or every season. He likes to end it as if, okay, I could just close it down right now and this would be the end. He loves to do his final. final episodes like that. So it's not surprised that it feels like this could end it right now. That's the way he likes to do it. So I'm not too surprised about that part of it, but I am very curious, like you are, exactly what are we going to expect for this second half.
Because if you contrast this to Breaking Bad, and I don't want to give away any Breaking Bad spoilers, but Breaking Bad did their final season where it was 8 episodes and then 8 episodes. And while they reached like a nice stopping point in the first half of the 8 episodes, they left you on something that was like, oh my God, I can't wait to see how this comes back. And I know that Breaking Bad and Mad Men are very different shows, but Mad Men really sort of, basically almost closed the book, and then I'm not sure where we're going to pick up or what is going to be the storyline when we come back for 7 more episodes. It's almost like we need to start something new and try to get it all finished in 7 episodes.
Yeah, that's a good point, and it is kind of hard to compare those two shows since they are so different. But you're right. We're kind of left with this, like you said, this kind of finale to it. It seems as this mid-season episode was that we had last Sunday, to where it's like you really are scratching your head, like, okay, really, what is next, Matthew? We really don't know for sure, because it's not it's not like you had somebody like. Maybe Henry sitting on the toilet going, "What? Don Draper, AWOL from the military?"
Yeah. Don Draper is Dick Whitman? What? Yeah. So I don't know about that.
Like that.
So for this show, it's been such a roller coaster for Don Draper, where he's up, he's down, he's up, he's down. And I know that, I guess as viewers, he's up now when we want to say, okay, Don has it all figured out. Do you think in these final 7 episodes that we're going to end perhaps with Don on the down note? Do you think that could be where we get it off here? Like, I think a lot of us feel like, okay, get out on the high note, but there's still 7 episodes left to go.
I know that's really strange to think about it, because you think about the only character you can think of right now that seems really down is Ted. He seems like how Don was, a few episodes back. He looks like, in this last episode, he was about ready to just commit suicide with those poor sun-kissed guys in his airplane. I mean, he's really down. But Don Draper seems to kind of be up right now. So, yeah, that would be weird to take him back down again for what? I mean, unless, all those rumors people used to have that Don's going to kill himself or disappear. Oh my gosh, there's so many different rumors that people think that something's going to happen to Don Draper. I think the latest one recently, I remember there's a theory that he's the D.B. Cooper, which was this guy who got an airplane in 1972 and hijacked this plane and asked for $200,000 and parachuted out of the plane, and he was never found again. And
Why would he do that?
Gray suit, and a lot of people were thinking that's what Don Draper's going to do. That he's going to be the DB Cooper, and he's going to ask for us $200,000 and a parachute, hijack a plane, and disappear into nowhere. We'll never see him again, and he'll start a whole new life somewhere else.
All right, well, I'm not going to hold my breath for the DB Cooper twist ending of Mad Men.
Neither am I. But I mean, look at the way that this last episode ended. It doesn't seem like we're going any direction of anything too crazy, right?
I mean, I don't really see how we're just going to spend 7 episodes with everything being all honky-dory. Like, maybe this is sort of like a fool's gold sort of ending where, we're going to go work at McCann and everything is going to be so great, and then we're going to quickly find out that it's not that great to go and work for McCann.
Yeah, I mean, and even if that's the case, I mean, a lot of us could have probably seen that writing on the wall. I mean, there's obviously got to have been those concerns you would think they would have since they had them before about working for those guys. I don't quite know for sure. And then a lot of people wonder, well, maybe Matthew will go real crazy and like skip many years down the road, and we'll see what the results of this whole deal with McCann is going to work out. And I just can't imagine him doing that either. Can you?
No, that doesn't seem like that's this show. I don't think we're going to have time jumps and then, basically get up to the present. I don't think that that's what this show is either. I feel like this show has been so invested in, it's about the 60s. It starts in 1960. It's going to go up until I could see the finale being on New Year's Eve, 1969. And I feel like that's probably the stopping point for this.
What if we had two split stories? We had current 1969, and then we had a flash forward.
No flash sideways. No, there's no no sideways in the final 7 episodes.
Okay. All
All right.
right.
Uh, let's talk about the send off that we had for Bert Cooper here in this episode because it was so bizarre and it seems to have been universally beloved. What was your take on the send off for Bert Cooper?
Yeah, there was a lot of people that had a lot of mixed feelings about it. Personally, myself, it didn't really bother me that much. I was okay with it. You know, it's not completely out of context for the show to do something a little bit unusual. We've had a few episodes in Mad Men's history that was a little off. You think of last year, I think it was, where we had the one where they're all on speed, right? And that whole episode was a huge trip. So
Literally.
I was okay with it. I think there was two purposes for that. One, I think Matthew has always wanted to have Robert Morris have a chance to do some kind of singing, some kind of musical piece, just because that was his background as a theater actor. And two, he thought Matthew probably figured, well, this is a clever way to put this particular song in there for a reason to kind of tell us what Don's second story is going to be. Which from that it makes me think, well, okay, so best things in life aren't free. What exactly did that mean? And that's was the reason I could think is it's going to have something to do with his personal life, but I don't really know. It's just so hard to say. But I personally was okay with it. Did you like the musical, or you thought it was just too weird?
Uh, I thought it was enjoyable, but I feel like I didn't love it as much as some people online loved it. I know people online made a big deal, and it was great. It was such a great send off for it, but just Don's reaction to it, I'm like, is Don having a psychotic episode right now? I don't really understand what this is. This Bert Cooper's ghost? And I get it, it was just sort of like creative license to do what they want, but it just seemed like it was so, so odd that it was like we didn't like, I've read interviews with Matt Weiner where he talked about they've done other things on the show where Don Draper comes home and the family is there, and then that really didn't happen. So I know that there is some sort of a precedent, but this was just so odd that I felt like it did not really fit in with everything else that was going on in the story.
Yeah, it was. It was, especially for the
I know a lot of people loved it. I don't want to take that away from people.
Yeah.
Wasn't like saying bravo like Bert Cooper watching the moon landing.
Right, and I wasn't convinced, by the way, that he could do that entire dance with just his socks on and not fall over at least once, right?
Yeah, it was impressive. That being said,
Yeah.
Robert Morse does a great job there.
Yeah, he's like 83 years old, isn't he? Something like that?
Yeah. It just didn't end with like Don Draper like what oh, I must have been hallucinating. Is like Don Draper is imagining that? Like, what is it in the context of the show? Like, why would Don Draper imagine Bert Cooper doing a song and dance number? I know Robert Morse, the actor, has this musical theater background, but Bert Cooper doesn't, so I'm not sure why Don Draper would imagine Bert Cooper doing a song and dance number with the Secretaries.
Yeah, like I said, I think it just has to do with the context of the particular song he was singing. It was supposed to tell us that things may look okay, Don, but there's still things in your life that is not to do with the material things in the world that you still maybe need to work on or something like that. Because Don kind of had a happy but then confused look on his face, didn't he, during that whole scene? It was kind of weird. Like his facial expression looked like probably a lot of other people's facial expression watching the episode, like going, "What? That's kind of weird. What is this about?"
No, absolutely. And you have this song of, okay, the best things in life are free, but I mean, is Don's relationship with his kids really that strained? I mean, didn't we have the episode earlier in the season where Don sits with Sally in the diner, and they have sort of a great team. I mean, do we need 7 episodes to sort of fix that relationship? I feel like it's in a pretty good spot, especially compared to his relationship with Betty,
Yeah,
or Sally's relationship with Betty.
right. I totally agree. We seem to kind of have a little bit of closure when it comes to, because the only relationship we should really care about, I think, when it comes to the show, is the one between him and Sally, because that's the only one we've really invested much at all through 6.5 seasons now. So, and it seems to those two are okay. You know, even in this last episode, they had a brief conversation on the phone, and you could tell it seemed like the two of them they're joking a little bit about the moon landing, you know, and for me, it seems like the two of them are okay. I don't really know what else we need to do when it comes to their childhood. So I guess it's about his love life, maybe. I really, who are we gonna meet? Somebody new? I mean, though there's a lot of rumor. Maybe he'll wind up back with Betty again. They get remarried or something. But I can't even imagine that scenario.
I mean, the show has been very clear that Betty has no capacity to change. So that would just seem like a real bad thing for Don to go back to, where I feel like the show is sort of trying to give us growth in Don Draper. I don't see us going back with Betty.
No, absolutely not. I would be, just don't think, it's fun to think about, but I don't think that's going to happen whatsoever. I really don't. So, but you know, Matthew loves to, he's big on this whole mystery thing, Rob. He loves to make us scratch our heads and wonder what it's going to be, and then he takes all this effort to make sure that no one knows anything about what's going to happen. So I guess whatever does happen in the second half will probably be pleasantly surprised. Because don't get me wrong, I trust him. I do trust him.
And I know the show is already made, but I do feel like that Mad Men could probably use a little juice heading into the final 7 episodes. That the ratings were down for this half season, so there weren't like a ton of people clamoring for the Mad Men return, especially compared to some of the other high-profile TV shows that are out there. I felt like going into the final 7 to sort of just like close everything up and basically, you know, seal over all of these wounds. I feel like Mad Men is going to come into that final 7, you know, a year from now with almost no momentum other than it's the final 7 episodes. Like, there's really no plot lines that we're saying, oh, I can't wait for Mad Men to get back so we can see blank.
Exactly. Honestly, I think we've talked a little bit about this before on the podcast, but I just can't see where, I mean, I understand they were looking at Breaking Bad as their mold, right? That was, okay, we're going to try to copy this. But it's, like we said earlier, it's 2 different kinds of shows. Why would they think that this is the kind of show that would be successful with this? And especially, Rob, this is the biggest problem I have with this whole thing, is the time frame. If we were going to get 7 episodes now, and then 7 episodes some point this fall, let's say, late in the fall or around the holiday time or something.
Like Walking Dead.
A whole year?
Yeah.
That's crazy talk. I just don't see it's going to help their ratings whatsoever.
Well, I think that that's what they thought it was going to, where it was like, hey, Mad Men final season, everybody's going to tune in, and that really wasn't the case. Now, again, all these episodes are shot beforehand, but I feel like, you know, just to have everything, you know, at such a nice point with everybody, like such a nice stopping point, it just feels like when they come back, they're just going to have to, like, either reopen all of these wounds or invent all of this new drama to get everybody, have all this conflict again for the final 7. Like, it won't just be all happy in these final 7 episodes. So whether it's Don is going to start drinking again or some other, you know, external conflict is going to happen, I just feel like, you know, are we hitting on 20 here, where we had such a good ending for everybody? Do we need 7 more episodes? And I know that a lot of people who are listening to this, myself included, really enjoy this show and love getting to spend time with this character. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm complaining about final 7 episodes, but it was just we got off at such a nice point.
Yeah, we did, exactly. And I think that having now a year break is going to be it's just I just don't see how it's going to really help this show whatsoever. It's way too long, Ron. I'm sorry. And you're right. Coming from a guy who spends many hours talking about this show, and I love the show. I just think that AMC made a mistake to a detriment of its fans, especially the hardcore fans, to say, "Oh, okay, well, listen, we're hoping to build at least 3 or 4 million live viewers for the final part, so we're going to make you guys wait a whole year." And it is just without, like you said, having a show where you're just on the edge of your seat. It's not that kind of show, and it's just I don't know. I just think it was
Yeah, what
really
are they waiting for? Put it on in the fall. Like,
yeah,
that the experiment of dragging your feet on this, didn't work out. The
right.
episodes are going to be done by then, right? They're in production now. Why not just get it out of the way? Just give us the final 7.
Yeah, like, I really don't know
Take
what
the
they're.
summer off, come back in the fall, boom, final 7 of Mad Men.
Yeah, I totally don't understand this, and I really think there's a lot of, especially the viewers that I would say the casual viewer, right? The one that they record it and they watch it within the week at some point. Maybe they don't watch it till Tuesday or Wednesday night, but they watch it eventually. Those fans right there, what are they in a hurry for to even watch this first half? They got a whole year
That's
to
true.
watch it.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. I saw in the article that I read that it was an interview with Matthew Weiner, and a lot of people had a question of why is Joan so mad at Don, and I even said to myself, like, hey, what's Joan's problem with Don? Why does she hate it? Why does she hate him so much? And Matt Weiner talks about obviously when the SCDP was going to go public, and that cost her about $1 million. And so she was really pissed off about that still. But I felt like that beat wasn't really hit on in season 7. But I think Matthew Weiner seemed a little insulted that people could forget why Joan is pissed off with Don.
It's not hard to insult Matthew. Man gets a little he gets a little testy about everything. There was a big conversation that a lot of people were wanting to know. Some people think it's kind of uncharacteristic to her character. I don't know if it's necessarily that. I think it has to do with the position that she's currently in. Right now for her, it's all about I'm taking care of this kid by myself. It's all about her financial situation. Don is one of those guys that if you're working with him, all he does is hurt the company. In her eyes, all he was doing is hurting the company and not helping the company, which cost her money. And even though maybe out of the office, she's okay and doesn't mind being friends with Don, but in the office, she doesn't want to be friends with a guy who is constantly making things difficult for the company that she gets paid from. And it just has to do with that. It just has to do with her personal life, that Don's affecting that, and she don't like it. And that makes sense that that's the reasoning, but it does kind of seem like, think by now, hey, Joan, can't you get over this a little bit? You'd think so.
Now, in the interview with Matthew Weiner, he says, well, for us, it's been a year, but for Joan, it's really only been 8 weeks since that happened. So she's still mad about that, which just is another reason why are we, spacing everything out so much that we can't even remember stuff that happens that long ago. But, that he did explain it. And so I believe that article that I'm talking about was from Vulture.com that I read this morning, and I think it was. Let me give you the author, Denise Martin's interview with Matthew Weiner about that. All right, let's talk about some of the other things from season 7, and let's touch on how about Megan, who was certainly there in season 7. She was out living in California. She was going crazy a little bit, and ultimately her and Don finally seems like they're going to break up, which I kind of thought they had broken up in the season 6 finale, but it looks like for real, no more Megan. Do you think we'll see her again in season 7, maybe one more time to say goodbye?
Yeah, my guess on that would be is maybe if we saw her, maybe it'd be like a phone call he makes or something to California, just check up on her, see how she's doing. I can't imagine us seeing much of her anymore. I think this might finally be the end of that storyline. It was kind of a slow burn all season. You could tell things are not going well. I mean, she tried a few things to see if it would work. I mean, at one point, she even does a threesome with Don Draper.
Yeah.
That still wasn't working, and then we get this very calm little mutual phone call between the two of them, and it's like, that was the end. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. I was kind of hoping it would be something more exciting, like Don shows up and she's like sleeping with somebody in her house or something. But oh well.
Yeah. Megan and Don very much with the conscious uncoupling in 1969.
Yeah, it took a page out of Chris Martin and Gwyneth Paltrow's.
That's very civil, very civil, unlike Don and Betty's divorce.
Yes, exactly. It was. I guess we shouldn't be surprised. I think the two of them knew it was over, but neither one of them wanted to finally say it's over. Even though she sort of kind of said that. You remember when when she found out that that Don had been lying about the fact that he was been fired from his job, and she's like, "Wait a minute, you would rather spend every day in New York and not be here when you weren't even working?" I
Yeah.
thought that was the end of the relationship, but then no, next episode they're still together, and I'm like, okay.
Let's talk about the computer and specifically Ginsburg in this season. So Ginsburg sort of went super loco for a couple episodes. It looks like then Ginsburg is done at Sterling Cooper, Draper Price, whatever it's called at this point in time. So did you like the Ginsburg story, or was that just too weird also?
Ginsburg, if you remember right, he has been a weird cat this entire time. Since the moment he came on, we could always tell there was something weird with this guy. He's always says awkward things throughout the entire season since he's been on. So I guess we really shouldn't be surprised that this guy eventually was going to go loco and just go crazy and be hauled off off in a stretcher. I was not surprised to see this happen to Ginsburg at all. And it took me by surprise, the episode. I don't think I was expecting in that episode, but then that whole scene with the box was like, wow.
Yeah, Peggy was very good in her reaction to that. Say, okay, you just sit right here. I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Generism in the chat room wants to know what's in store for Peggy. Now, Peggy had a good run in this half season. She went from sort of having a few lackluster moments in the beginning of the season, specifically Valentine's Day. She's still obsessed with Ted, and she has the whole Three's Company type scenario with thinks the flowers are for her, they're really for her secretary. And then by the end of this season, she's delivering a master stroke of a performance about Burger Chef and really stepping up to be the new Don Draper. So good half season for Peggy, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you could tell she was definitely still hurt about the Ted thing, and it took her a while to get over that. But I think she definitely has ending on a high note for this first half of season 7. Things are definitely looking bright for her. She's getting her confidence back. I think she is on her way to eventually being creative director, whether it's for Sterling Cooper and Partners or somewhere else, but I think she is on her way doing something. And I don't know for sure what they're going to do about her personal life because there's still a lot of mystery over the whole Ted thing, since apparently he is super unhappy and glad that he's going to be coming back to New York. So I don't know if they're going to try to rekindle that or if maybe they'll just end where we never get any closure when it comes to her personal life. Because honestly, let's face it, I think most fans, they just care about her professional life, don't they, for the most part?
You don't want to see more about Abe or any of these guys, the handyman at Peggy's apartment or any of this stuff?
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, if it's going to be Ted, fine. Let it be Ted. I guess I could see that sort of happening as long as she can really forgive him. But if it's anybody else, it's kind of like with Don Draper. I don't know if I want anybody else that I'm new to with only 7 episodes left to go.
Yeah. Are Don Draper and Peggy Olson the Liz Lemon and Alec Baldwin of 30 Rock of Mad Men times?
Ooh, yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. I could say they could go with that one.
Yeah. They're not. There's no romance there. They're just best buddies, mentor, mentee, and that's it.
Right, exactly. They admire each other. They're professionally, and that's pretty much just how it goes. And they think a lot alike, I think, and they just hit it off really good as friends. And I think that's pretty much all they're going to be.
Yeah. Chris Berger what happened to that Lou jerk? So what is going on with Lou? Does he get Scout's honor off and running now?
Yeah, that's what I was. That's a good point. Maybe from now on, what I'm sure once Roger gets in his office and says, "Lou, you're going to be reporting to Don Draper," and then Lou's going to go, "Don Draper? Yep, that's the one." Because things are not going to go well for Lou. Here's the thing about Lou, though, is we have been hating this guy, right? This entire season, right? This guy has just been, you want to punch him in the face. And if we don't get some kind of closure, I mean, I know we had this little bit with Jim Cutler yelling at him in this last episode and telling me he was basically a hired hand. I want more than that, okay?
No, I don't think you're going to get it. I think that Lou has a contract that they're going to get their money from McCann, and they're just going to pay out Lou's contract, and then that's it.
Yeah, I know that's probably what's going to happen, but I wanted the ghost of Lane Price to come back and punch this guy in the face just like he did Pete Campbell.
Yeah, he's gone, and Cutler's gone, and that's it. Did you feel like the turnaround for Ted was too easy? I mean, he went from being like pretty suicidal to Don basically just talking him off the ledge and saying like, "Hey, I know what you need. You need to be back doing creative." And he's like, "Can I move back to New York?" Like, "Yeah, sure you can." And then Ted, all of a sudden, Teddy Chaw is back, baby.
He's back. That's right. I think personally, I thought that was just brilliant. The way Roger worked that room. First he hits Joan and Pete where they care about it, which is money, right? They just want to know they're going to be filthy rich. He hits them with that. They're on board. Then he just has to work Ted. And granted, he got a lot of help from Don Draper in this. But you're right. As soon as he said, "Well, do I get to move to New York?" He's like, "Ted's in. Let's vote."
Yeah, let's do it.
That was just the brilliant way that Roger worked that whole thing is the reason why it was easy to convince Ted, well, come on, you're back. Yeah, you're back here in New York. Come on. It's good to go.
The best part of all of that was when Harry Crane wants to be a partner.
Yes.
He's like, "Oh, you're not a partner. You're out. You get nothing."
Yeah, let's talk about Harry Crane for a second. What an idiot, right? I mean, let's think about this. It was around mid-June when he finds out that the partners have voted. They're going to give him an offer to be a partner. So months gone by now, because now it's mid-July. Months gone by. Apparently, he's had the paperwork in front of him, and he hasn't signed it yet because we got clues about that throughout this entire episode.
What were the clues? I missed them.
Well, there was lots of clues where he would discuss about signing papers. I think early on in the episode when they were having their meeting, they had the meeting with Burger Chef. They were talking about the Burger Chef thing, and Donna was talking about how he said Jennifer is holding out on his divorce. That was Harry's wife. He's holding out on divorce because he wants to see how things work out with the contract for the partnership. And Don's like, just don't negotiate, just sign it. And there was another point too where we realized when Jones like giving him crap about how he hasn't taken up on the offer yet, and then that in that scene he says, I'll take it. He's meaning, okay, I'm sorry, well, go ahead, I'll sign it. And by that time it's too late.
Yeah,
they're already working on another deal, buddy. You're out.
I want to know is who gets the computer.
I guess Harry does. Harry will now be living for the rest of his life talking to that computer, saying, "You understand me,"
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't cut off his nipple or worse.
I know. Oh my God. I would hate to think about anything worse than a nipple.
Oh my God. Let's talk about some of the other characters that from season 7. Were you pumped up for the return of Bob Benson?
Oh yeah, you know what? I like Bob Benson. I was glad that we got to see him because I think if we went the whole season without seeing him a little bit, that would have been everyone talking about, right? They would have said, "What about Bob? What about Bob?" Right? And thank goodness we got at least some kind of information about Bob. And apparently, if this whole thing with the Buick thing, it sounds like maybe we may see him again in the second half. Probably not much, but maybe in one episode.
No crazy ones. That show's canceled, so Bob Benson is free to return.
That's right. James Walk is available, so I would not be surprised if we see a little bit more of Bob Benson. I think they like the character quite a bit. So I was like I said, I was fine. Were you okay with seeing Bob again?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, I kind of like the subplot that Bob Benson is gay and tries to marry Joan just for appearances so he can get a job with Buick. So I like that Bob Benson is basically just like he really only cares about his career, and he just needs to look the part.
Yeah, I think though, if you think about it, since Bob came on the scene, that has kind of been apparent that he was willing to do whatever it takes for his career. And since he knows that, at this time frame in American history, homosexuality still hasn't been, considered to be still something you kind of hide. So for him, if he felt like being with Joan is going to give him that appearance that he needs to succeed, that's what he was going to do. And I do think, though, he had a. Don't you think he did care about Joan? No, I think he did care about her.
Uh,
A little bit?
I don't know. He's just such a robot that he is just basically doing whatever it takes. Like he's such a kiss ass, and basically was like, okay, well, if I get in with Joan, then I can get her to marry me, so nobody will know that I'm gay, and then I can go and get a partnership, or I can go to Buick and I can have this job. So I kind of feel like he's just such a android about everything. I don't think he really has feelings.
Yeah, and he is an exceptional. Not only is he a kiss ass, but he also is an exceptional liar. There was times when he came on the scene where some of the hardcore fans picked up on little things that he said about like his dad and how he was saying one thing but then said another, and I didn't even notice that. Where he would, he's easily has no problem telling someone a complete fib if it meant he thought he could move on and better himself. I mean, this is the one guy. If we had a Survivor Mad Men cast, this is the guy who probably is going to win because he's willing to do whatever lies it takes to get to the end.
Does Bob Benson live by the hobo code?
You know what? I think he does.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Let's talk about a couple of other people from the season. What do you think about Roger in these 7 episodes? He sort of starts off and he's in sort of like psychedelic orgy world, and then he has the thing with his daughter that really nothing comes about. He ends up getting involved with Don when Don ends up coming back, and then he's really Don's only ally at the agency, and then he goes through the whole thing with his daughter on the commune, and then he ends up sort of being the hero in the last episode.
Yeah, he has kind of had a roller coaster when you when you look at it that way. It has been because I was a little confused when we start the episode because last season we kind of got this feeling like maybe he's kind of find a good spot in his life now and he's going to maybe stop all this crazy shenanigans he's been up to. And one of the first episode we see the guy stark naked and having some huge orgy at his house, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I wonder though if maybe the thing with his daughter kind of opened his eyes a little bit and to realize, you know what, you're almost just as bad as this gal right here, your daughter. You need to figure this thing out. And we see him in this last episode where he's back with Mona and they're having a family time watching the lunar the moon landing, all that stuff. So maybe there was the whole thing where he still hadn't changed, but now he has changed and now he's ready to be a leader. I guess they were just trying to find a good ending for his story, and it did work. I mean, he definitely was a rock star in the finale.
Yeah, for Roger, it really was interesting to see him in this last episode because he sort of like has it out a little bit with Bert Cooper, who was always sort of like the older brother to him in this company. And when we see him in the moon landing scene, who's he with? He's with his Mona, right? And his grandson, and then is that his son-in-law also that was at his house?
Yeah, I guess they got him out of jail.
Oh no!
Remember, he was in jail, and
where's the daughter? She's just gonna still be at the commune forever?
I don't know, man. Because when Roger got that phone call when he's sitting on the couch about Bert, I immediately started thinking, uh-oh, something happened to his daughter. I really did. I thought it was gonna be about the daughter, and then we find out, no, Bert dies. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't see that one coming. By the way, did you see the Bert thing coming? I didn't see the Bert thing coming.
No, I did not.
And you know what? You think we should have. The one guy who's like as old as sin on the show, that should have been the guy we should have been saying, oh, it probably could be Bert that's going to die. And I never predicted that.
What did you think about when Ida Blankenship died? They were talking about how she was born in 18 whatever, and she died in 1965 or whatever, and in a skyscraper. And Bert Cooper says she was an astronaut, and then he dies during the moon landing. Did you like that?
Yeah, I liked that. It was kind of a nice full circle since, he passes away. Bert winds up passing away watching the astronauts land on the moon. I thought that was a nice way for them to bring it back around.
Yeah. So that was very good. What about the most underrated character of season 7, Julio?
Yeah, how about that? I think that Julio represented exactly what we were always warning about where Peggy's mind was when it comes to her fact with her son. You know, she had the son, she gave him up, and we always kind of wondered, does that bother her? And I think that we kind of seeing this special relationship she had with Julio, we actually kind of got a little bit of their get to see a little bit of a side of Peggy that I don't know if we would have normally got to see. And you know, not to mention she's got a nice television. You know, and Julio wanted to watch TV.
Yeah. What do you think happens with Julio? Is he in Newark by the time the new season starts?
Sounds like he's going to be in Newark, which of course nobody wants to go to Newark though.
No, nobody wants to go, and nobody still wants to go to Newark.
That's what I've heard.
How about Pete? Pete got a lot of screen time in season 7.
Yeah, he always gets a lot of screen time because he's a fantastic character. I love Pete Campbell. He's up there with Roger for me. He is
Great.
He's great TV.
He was great, and I felt like Pete really blew it with his girlfriend. I felt like, Pete is always, throughout the history of the show, that he's always the guy that's like, oh, why can't this girl be into me? And, he's been so unlucky in love, especially with Trudy, and then he wants to be like Don Draper and have all these good-looking girlfriends, and then he finally has a girl who's, like, really into him, and he kind of totally blows it, right?
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, I think he really was a different man in California, and then when he came back home, obviously I think things really affected him because of the whole Trudy thing. I don't think he's still not over this whole thing with Trudy and her not wanting to be part of his family, even though he acts like he could care less, but he does obviously care. And I think that Bonnie was one of these kind of gals that she was able to see right through his crap, and when she saw how he normally is, she's like, I'm out of here. And that's a shame too, because I thought she was a good fit for him, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought she was great. I don't know what Pete was doing messing around with that.
Yeah, Pete is still an idiot. He still can't get over stuff, and he still can't learn to. God, he can't learn to keep his mouth shut too. Man, oh man, how many times has he said stuff to you go, oh Pete, what are you saying, dude?
He was hilarious on the phone call with Ted when talking about, the clients want to live too, Ted. That was great.
But the more I think about it, do we really want to see Pete change? I don't think I do.
No, he is fantastic. I'm such a big Pete fan as well, because I feel like I've said this before. I just feel like I could relate to Pete a lot more than I can relate to Don, who everything comes so easy for Don.
Right. Yeah, me and you are the same. Things did not come easy for me. I'm more like a Pete Campbell than Don Draper because gold doesn't just fall right in front of me. I anytime something happens, it's always going to be the worst for me. And poor Pete, But he is a great character to watch.
Diane Jennings wants to know what happened to Pete's mom. The Bob Benson's friend offed her.
Yeah, I know. She's somewhere in the sea, I guess. Oh man, that whole thing was a little awkward. But what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? And yeah, there was never a Bob Benson and Pete confrontation again this season, which I felt like that was something that I wish we would have gotten to have seen.
Oh, I totally agree. That would be when we were talking earlier about Bob, that would be the one thing that was kind of lacking there. We were really hoping to see something between the two of them. It didn't necessarily happen. We had that little conflict a little bit with them with the whole Chevy thing, when Pete had this opportunity to get the big accounts to handle all the dealerships in Southern California or what it was. And he's like, well, Bob's got to be on part of this. And that, of course, totally upset Pete. I mean, he was furious about that. In fact, when he got the Burger Chef thing, remember the first thing he said was, "Try to see Bob take this away from me." So we had it, but there was not on screen, so it was kind of not quite as nice as it would have been if we had full blown confrontation like we had last season.
All right, so I like to do this with a lot of the podcasts that we do. Let's talk MVP and LVP of season 7, half season of Mad Men. Jeremiah, who is the MVP of the season 7 of Mad Men?
I'm gonna go with Roger.
Okay, I was gonna say, and just to make it difficult, you can't make it Don. So you go with Roger.
Yes, because Roger in the end saves the day for all our characters that we care most about.
Okay. What was the highlight for Rodgers' MVP season?
Oh, probably the finale for him working out this deal with Jim Hobart from McCann. I think that was just perfect to see the way he orchestrated that whole deal and then worked the room with the remaining partners to get them on board. I think that was great. I think that pep talk or that talk that he had with Bert really meant something to him, and I think he took it to heart and he took his advice and said, you know what, I can be a leader, and so now we're going to see him as a leader. I would be interested to see what kind of special days at the office you think now that Roger's in charge we could see. Maybe like vodka in your milk day or LSD day at the office. What do you think?
Oh, probably all of them.
Yeah,
Speaking of wild days at the office, how funny was it when Don's secretary tried to put the moves on him when he found out he was getting terminated?
Oh yeah, sweet little Meredith. That was priceless. That was great. I actually interviewed the actress Stephanie Drake just last week, and what's so funny is that we kind of had
she hit on you.
Yeah, she hit on me. Yeah, she told
God.
me that she was going to be that she was going to be my strength. No, what was funny is I was thinking is that we were joking about her and Don like riding off in matrimony at the end of this show, and I'm sure it was just killing her that she couldn't tell me that she was about to have this scene where she gets to kiss Don Draper. But oh my gosh, she actually, you have to admit, Meredith really gave us some really good comic relief this season.
Yeah, very funny. LVP, who was the least valuable player of the midseason Mad Men run?
I'm going to go with Ted because apparently he really is ruining things out there in California. He's let his whole depression of moving to California and leaving Peggy apparently is just completely, he has no interest in this business. He just sits around and mopes around trying to kill their clients, with his airplane. I think he's got to get that honor, don't you think?
I would have to say, if I'm giving the LVP, I feel like, I might be tempted to say Lou. Lou is in the mix, I feel, for LVP, but at least a lot of drama came out of Lou. I feel like Megan is in the mix for LVP, that she didn't really bring much to the table this time around, but she did have a threesome, so that sort of takes her out of contention. I might have... What's that?
No, I was going to say the threesome helped out to move that up on that scale for me.
Sure. I might have to say it was Betty because that we went to Betty probably like 3 or 4 times during the season. I feel like we didn't really learn anything new about Betty. I'm trying to think if we even had a scene with Don and Betty together. I think that they might have spoken on the phone once. And I feel like if we're not connecting Betty to the Don story, then I don't really know what the point of having her on the show is. I don't need to know that Betty is fighting with her husband or even the day. I know a lot of people like the episode where they went on the field trip, but I mean that Betty is a lousy mom. We know this already. So I felt like we spent probably too much time with Betty for season 7.
We didn't really learn much at all. I know that one episode they were trying to point out the fact that she's kind of maybe come to a realization that she's not happy necessarily with her life, but that's still not really giving me anything new because she's still the same person, and I don't know. I could see what you're saying there because Betty really hasn't, for me, she hasn't really offered that much at all as well.
Okay. Let's take a question here from Mike Bloom, who wants to know, many final seasons typically trot out many characters or storylines from throughout the series run. We've already seen the return of Freddie Rumsen. Who are 3 characters you think we'll see in the back half of season 7? Well, I would love to see Sal come back, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I think just about every fan wants to see Sal come back, even if it's just a brief moment. I would say that he's probably the highest up on the list.
All right, let me throw some characters at you. You tell me if there's a possibility of their return in the final 7, okay? Give me the percentage. You want to give me a percentage chance? Is that good?
Percentage. Yeah, that's fine.
Here we go. Duck.
I'm going to say that's going to be pretty high. Let's go with 40%.
Oh, 40% chance of the return of Duck.
He's in the business. It wouldn't surprise me if we see him.
Okay. Conrad Hilton.
3%. 3%.
3%. What about Creepy Glenn?
I'm going to go with 60%.
60%. Yeah, I feel like Glenn. We need to see a return to Glenn.
If the thing is, if he wasn't because of the fact it's played by Matthew's son, I'd say maybe we could drop that down a little lower. But I think we got to have some kind of closure between him and Sally at some point. I'm really hoping we'll see the two of them head off to Woodstock in August. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I would say high percentage of Creepy Glenn.
Okay, what about Midge?
I'm gonna say that's almost 0%. Let's give her 3% too.
Okay. How about? Let's see. We'll give you one more. How about Dr. Faye?
Dr. Faye. It's funny. I just had a conversation with somebody on the internet joking around about, well, maybe Don will wind up back with Dr. Faye. I'm gonna go pretty low on that one too. Maybe I'll give her 10%.
10%. Last one, Ginsburg.
Ginsburg. I'm going to go with 25% just because he had been such a major character for a while. Maybe we'd see Stan visiting him in the hospital. That could be entertaining.
Okay. All right. Well, this was a very good look back at the first 7 episodes here of Mad Men. We got the final 7 still to come 1 year from now. Is there anything else that you feel like we didn't touch on?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that we did not cover. It was overall, I thought it was a very good first half of the last season, and like you said, now the question will be is what are we going to see in the final?
It was a very entertaining 7 episodes. However, I don't know what's left to do in the final 7.
Right.
But that's not my job to figure it out.
That's right. We have to put our faith in Matthew and his team of writers, which they are very, very talented. And I know we've said this before on the podcast, but I'm going to put my faith in them that they're going to come up with something that's going to be highly entertaining and that we'll be glad that we waited a year to see.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be absolutely delightful, the final 7, but I'm just wondering I wonder if maybe this was the happy ending, and then I'm wondering if maybe we might get the unhappy or unsatisfying ending 7 episodes from now.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope it's satisfying, but it could. Who knows?
Who knows? All right. Well, hear what Jeremiah has to say in between now and then on Mad Men Podcast. Jeremiah, how do we find Mad Men Podcast?
Just go to madmenpodcast.com and
boom.
That simple as that.
There you go. All right, and check out Jeremiah on plenty more post-show recaps. Jeremiah recently was part of a roundtable counting down the greatest comic book movie of all time. Were you happy with how that panned out?
Yes, I was. I thought we had a great conversation about that, and it was a lot of fun for me.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jeremiah. We are going to have plenty more here on post-show recaps. On Wednesday, we're going to have our Game of Thrones feedback show with myself and Josh Wigler. I'm also going to have a SNL podcast recapping all of Season 9 of Saturday Night Live with Rich Tackenberg. And then, of course, that'll take us into Game of Thrones Live Episode 8 this Sunday night. Now, no more Mad Men on Sunday nights, only Game of Thrones to think about. So we will have our undivided attention on Game of Thrones starting this Sunday. So have a great one. Love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments, and we'll talk to you again soon.